Spice FM KE, Facebook. We are on Twitter at Spice FM KE. You can also tag us individually at Eric Latif, at CT Muga, at Nduoko. And also, of course, you can also watch us on Spice FM KE YouTube and www.spicefm.co.ke. Joining us on the hot seat this morning is Twalib Mbarak, the Chief Executive Officer of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Now, you know, this is the body that has the principal mandate of fighting corruption in this country. Well, the rest of the country has the principal mandate of participating in corruption. Well, no, that's not the case. Twalib, thank you very much for joining us, and Karibu to Spice FM.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you for, taking the time to come in this early in the morning and to engage with us, of course, and tell the public about the fight against corruption. So let's just start from the basics. Just for many people who are not aware, just give us the brief mandate of the EACC.
Thank you, Eric. The commission was formed through the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Act of 2011. Of course, there had been other corruption bodies before. And the main mandate of the commission is to fight corruption through enforcement, public education and awareness, which include things like system reviews. And the vision is to have the country to be a corruption-free country that believes in ethics and transparency.
When you talk about ethics, of course, this is something that is very, very broad to define. How would you define ethics?
That's quite academics, but it can be in many forms, depending on how you look at it.
Yes.
I think basically ethics is how people do the right things without having somebody with a whip behind you, knowing that whatever you're doing is right and is correct as per the norms of the society, as per the laws of the country. I think when you are like that, you can say that Eric Latif is
an ethical man.
An ethical man.
Am I an ethical man?
That's a conversation for another day, I think.
Why don't we ask questions that can be responded to
in an hour?
Do I have teeth? And we look at you and say, yes, Eric, you have teeth. Okay. But Mbarak, I want to just dive right in and ask. The National Treasury put in place, and they drafted actually, a certain regulation. We call it the Anti-Money Laundering Regulation of 2019. Now, we know what this was supposed to do. It was supposed to help receive, manage all proceeds that were, let me use the one word, confiscated. How has this helped to strengthen this particular department that you head?
First of all, I'll give an example, a historical example of why we need this kind of an act. You remember very well, sometimes back, Grand Regency was recovered.
Yes.
At that time, I used to work with the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission. When it was recovered, the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission at that time handed over the hotel to the Central Bank of Kenya because of the issue of receiver or whatever. It was a property. It went back to the Central Bank of Kenya as a property of the Central Bank of Kenya. Later on, within a short time, I know you're a senior citizen. You know what transpired. We have solved a problem of a recovery of very tangible asset. Later on, you hear that this asset was sold
to a certain individual.
Certain individual. Then issues are coming up that it was not done properly. There were allegations that it was undervalued deliberately. Now here you have recovered a public asset. And then from somebody who did something wrong, when you're handing it over to the entity that is supposed to take it, another scandal comes up. Now, what was noted out of that is that we can do asset recovery. The Asset Recovery Agency can do asset recovery from issues to deal with crimes such as human trafficking, drug trafficking, money laundering, and terrorism. For us, we do asset recovery on issues related to economic crime. If we find that Eric Latif is becoming so rich and is a public officer, we write a notice to you that, look, Eric, we suspect that there's something going on about your wealth,
Yeah.
which is not commensurate to your economic activities. So you are given a letter by the EACC to explain how you got that money, and we take a process of trying to recover. You remember very well we had a case in Nairobi where a certain public officer in a county, we managed to recover some amount of money, though not what we wanted, because I think we got only 1/3 of that, and we have appealed. So the issue, the big question came, which was the reason why this act is coming into place. When you recover assets, whether it's money, gold, where do you take that? Where do you take that? The other thing, I want to go and confiscate. I realize that you have a very big ranch. You have managed to get that ranch through a corrupt system.
Right.
Let's say it is in Ukambani, or Coast, or Timau. You have 10,000 cattle, several boreholes. You even have horses. If we want to come and confiscate that farm, how do we go about it? Do we have expertise to start feeding horses? Vaccination of the,
what are we going to do? Are we going to sell them off? What?
So this act will also take care of that. How do you, in Kenya, when you talk of assets, Kenyans believe it's just
money.
two things, money and land. But there are many things. So this act will ensure that there's an effective and a procedural way of how that recovered asset is taken care of.
So how does it address that actually? Now, you've just took the example that you've just given, ranch with livestock in it.
It will actually. I'm coming there. It will take care of cash recovered, physical assets. For instance, if you're talking of housing units, effectively it will look for a real estate manager through a transparent way, where they will run that estate. The money will be deposited to this and a set account by the government. So at the end of the year, that account, you can tell this is what has been recovered by EACC, this is what was recovered by the Asset Recovery Agency, this is what was recovered by the DPP, and it's one basket. Currently, that one is lacking. Yeah. So talking about what happened with the Grand Regency, this is a good example why we need this act.
Right. To come into place, and over the question of time comes into play here with a lot of these cases. I mean, if you just look at the public's opinion about how long some of these cases take, and it's an issue. What would you have to say about that in terms of what is necessary to have some of these come into play, and why does it take so long?
I think I may need 2 hours to explain that. But the big question is not how to answer you. The question is how to squeeze time. And I want to take you through. Because we interact with the public. We are not angels. When we go out there, somebody asks you, most of my friends, they call me Major because that's the rank I left the army.
The army.
So they ask you, Major, mbona mjafunga watu?
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody's baying for blood.
And you look at the person, this is Eric Latif, a very exposed person. But he doesn't understand the system of how somebody is taken through the prosecution.
The legal process.
The legal process, you're
Yes.
right. What happens is this. I want to start with EACC and equivalent to DCI.
Yep.
Because right now we really work under multi-agency team, and I work very closely with the DCI and the DPP. We get a case. It has come to the EACC in form of a report, either at the report center, anonymous letter, Twitter, email, even nowadays WhatsApp. And I think WhatsApp is becoming very popular. I've even told my staff, look, we need to have a WhatsApp number for every of our station. Somebody will tell you, I've picked these documents from the county. People are on the verge of stealing. There's some vehicles that are being bought. The cost is exaggerated twice, and the payment is actually tomorrow. What will you do? So what happens is that once we get a case, we do what you call preliminary investigation. Sometimes maybe it's somebody, you have harassed him in the office as a manager, now he wants...
get back at you.
Sometimes there's an element of vendetta.
Yeah.
We have element of clanism. When you hear a governor is stealing, and especially when the report is from northern Kenya, you'll see the complainant is from different clan from the accused.
From the accused, yes.
So you have to balance between facts and clanism.
Yes.
You have to balance even spouses. When people are...
Disagree.
It has happened.
Yes.
One prominent person, no name, The spouse revealed a lot of things about him, that this is what this fellow is having. But since now he has abandoned me, can you deal with him? So what happened is this. At preliminary investigation, we do investigation and look at the merit of the case. From there, we put that case into full investigation. And it can be under several systems. Either we do investigation with the aim of charging you on economic crime, or writing to you maybe civil recovery. You have grabbed some land which you are irregularly allocated, or it could be issues to deal with ethics. You are state corporation manager, MD, you have brought 6 of your relatives and employed them. One is your niece, one is your nephew, one is your concubine, one is what. So we go through and say, we take action against you. That won't be ethical, yeah? And it may lead to your suspension or even being taken to court. So after that, the case, the investigators do the investigation, they make the file, and they take it to their team leader. Their team leader says there's a case here, continue. It is taken to the legal department. They brainstorm with the legal department. They do what you call crime reading to see whether the so-called charges against that particular individual will be sustainable if that case is taken to court. Listen to the process. After that, we compile cases and we have what we call an enforcement committee within the EACC. It is being headed by one of the commissioner who is a prominent lawyer by profession. He's the chairman. And we bring all senior investigators and all senior legal mind in the commission. They go through each and every file. There are 2 things at that stage. The file will be recommended to be taken to the DPP, or there may be gaps. Or say, no, this file, e-file hajaifa, rudisha, go and address A, B, C, D. They go back. When they go back, it can take 1 week, it can take 2 months. Suppose there is a critical document that is missing. And without that document, we are foreseeing
a case.
We are foreseeing this case is going to collapse. What do?
You wait.
You wait. But do you know what happens with Kenyans?
We can't wait.
Of course.
Kenyans
What
will say these EACC investigators have been bribed. That is why they are sitting on this case.
Yes.
That's the reality. I'm here to talk to them.
True.
They say hii watu wamekula pesa. Hii case is 3 years hapa na hakuna mali inaenda.
Na hakuna mali itaenda.
Na haiendi, hii imekaliwa. Or politicians will say, hii wameambiwa wakalie.
Yes.
They are sitting on it for political reasons.
And there'll be a comparison.
And I'll give
this other case was fast-tracked, and this one is taking too long. What's happening?
And there's this common saying, how come that mwizi ya kuku anafungwa 2 days and a corruption guy 3 years? But mwizi ya kuku kinaenda pale anasema alivunja ibanda, kuku ndio huyu, tulimshika.
Ama manyoya ya kuku.
Ndio hii hapa.
Yes.
Yeah, but you see, when you talk of a corruption case sometimes involve even a foreign jurisdiction. Pesa imeenda Italy, katoka ikaenda Dubai, ikarudi ikaenda Mauritius, ikaenda. So all those facts you have to compile. So you can see the reason why a case can take too long. And I'll give you a good example of a classical example of such a case. When I came in last year, there was this case of Lake Basin Development Authority.
Yes.
Things from your area, maybe.
It most definitely is.
Yes.
It's from my county.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Lake Basin Development Authority, when it was being investigated, it took about 2.5 years.
Yes.
But last year when I came into the office, we were even summoned by the Senate and I think other bodies. Why are you not finishing this case? Even the leaders in Kisumu went and accused EACC that it is the main culprit of delaying the opening of that complex, that we have painted a negative image about that complex, that even prospective tenants are not willing to come to that building. But we had 2-3 issues that we were dying to get in terms of documents for that case to go through. Lastly, finally we managed to get the documents. We got hold of the people, we charged them, and here we are. We are moving on. Now, the question of delay now, this is where it comes in. So what happens is that once the enforcement committee, let me take you back to the system. Once the enforcement committee is done, we prepare what we call Section 35 report. Section 35 report is a summary of that case addressed to the DPP. We forward that file to the DPP. What we have done with Nurdin since I took over, I told him this issue of just bringing a file to you inakaa huko inaangaliwa na your guys there, then they come back and say there are these gaps.
There are gaps here and there.
Or what they normally term as cover points, but actually they are gaps. I told him, look here, we need to work smartly, because if we work hard, we shall die. We need to work smartly. What do? Get high impact cases, because one of the biggest challenge, and I think maybe you'll ask me later, one of the biggest challenge that we have, both the DCI, myself, EACC, DPP, and Judiciary and other places, capacity. Capacity is a very big problem.
Why is it a problem?
Yeah, very good. Capacity is a problem because of funding.
Simple.
You can't run your house if you don't have money. Your wife will take off, and even your kids will take off and go and look for money somewhere.
We will come back
So we'll come about capacity. And also, I don't blame the government, because capacity, when you talk of funding, the government has different priorities. So they will tell you, as much as we want to assist you in fighting corruption, we also have other issues: health, education.
Build the nation.
So it cut across everywhere. And every organization in the world, even if you go to the FBI and other international organizations,
They'll complain about
they will tell you the money they are getting is not enough. You may find it's very big in relation to the American economy or some of these European countries, but they will tell you this is not enough. These are cuts. So we go back to that filing system. So we talked to what we decided with the DPP is that, can we focus on high impact files or high impact cases? Because the mandate of the commission, and this is something that we are praying that it will be amended, is that we are supposed to fight corruption, and we are supposed to investigate all cases that are reported on corruption. Now, according to me, even when I appeared before the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, when they were vetting me, because I used to be in KACC before I went to Kenyan. So I told them openly that, look, we have a problem with this mandate, because many anti-corruption bodies in the world, I've been to the Serious Fraud Office, I've trained with the FBI, and I know how their system works. I've been in Hong Kong with the Independent Anti-Corruption Commission of Hong Kong. Many reputable anti-corruption bodies. There's a threshold of what they should investigate. If you go to the Serious Fraud Office, they will tell you in a year we handle about 20 cases. 20. And out of that, maybe we'll have 5 major cases. EACC handles 3,600 cases. In a year.
Let's take a short break on that note. Take a look at traffic and weather. Sorry, this is the situation. About 20 minutes past 7. Twalib Mbarak is the EACC CEO. Good morning.
Cranking up the volume.
It's the best.
With the greatest hits ever.
Skies are clearing up in Nairobi today. Mostly cloudy conditions will prevail through the day, though. Currently at 17 degrees with highs of 27. In Mombasa, 27 degrees is partly cloudy through the day at highs of 33. It's 16 degrees in Nyeri with rain showers expected later and highs of 26 and lows of 14. Rain expected in Kisumu later on today with highs of 29 and lows of 21. Malindi weather today, highs of 32 and lows of 27 and partly cloudy conditions. Moving on to Nakuru at 16 degrees. Clear skies with a few clouds later, highs of 28 and lows of 14. It's 14 degrees in Eldoret at 26 degrees, the high with rain expected later, coming down to a low of 13. Taking a look in East Africa, in Dar es Salaam at 27 degrees, highs of 33 and partly cloudy conditions. In Kampala, it's a cloudy day at 22 degrees, rain expected with thunderstorms at highs of 26 and lows of 21. And further afield in Lagos at 28 degrees, partly cloudy conditions with rain expected later today to cool things down, still with highs of 36 and lows of 27.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
This morning is Twalib Mbarak, the Dragon Slayer, the man who's in charge of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. You're telling us before we into this break that you approached the DPP and said, now let's work smart. Let's take the big cases, high impact cases. So you were explaining to us why we see like it takes too long for you to slay the dragon?
Yeah, let me proceed on that, Eric. What we have done now, instead of just sending the file with a covering letter and the Section 35 report to the DPP, we have now organized that he gets his prosecutors and our investigators who have been dealing with those files. They sit down, they brainstorm, they go through the file, and sometimes even myself and the DPP attend the presentation, depending on the size of the case. If it's a big baboon or big fish, we
be there.
We pay a lot of attention because we don't want to go wrong. These cases, when they go wrong, we are normally on the receiving end.
Of course.
And there are other dynamics of why people go wrong, which I may not be able to talk in front of you here. But you can guess as a Kenyan what goes on sometimes in the whatever. So what happens is that we look at those particular files and we say, now this file is watertight. This is like water in a glass. I've never seen a glass leaking. A glass will just break and everything will spill. But I don't know whether you've seen a glass leaking.
No, but Mbarak, apart from you mentioned the case in Kisumu. Can you give us an example of another watertight case, which of serious magnitude that you've looked at and said, okay, this one we've got this one.
I think I would not like to talk about some of these cases because some of them are before court.
But do they exist?
They are there.
Okay.
There we have charged governors, we have charged ministers. If those are not big cases,
actually, the question I'm asking has been answered. So when these cases go to court, it means you have looked at your evidence and you know everything is in
internally
place.
you're satisfied.
The explanation I've given you tells you that we don't just take cases for the sake of taking cases.
Right.
We are not after numbers.
By the time
in fact, one of my strategy, we are obliged to provide quarterly reports to Parliament.
Yep.
And sometimes my officers will tell me, by focusing on high impact cases, people will see a drop in numbers.
Our report will just be one page.
Yes, I say it doesn't matter. We go on high impact cases, and the numbers is not an issue. Let's look at the quality and the message. Because I can tell you now, with about 4 governors being charged, the feedback I'm getting on the ground is that there's semblance of order in the counties. Because there are cases.
So the deterrence.
The deterrence aspect of it. So we are meeting our mandate, that is enforcement and deterrence. There is an element. And previously, most of the executive officers in the county, when they're being investigated, they will tell you, the governor told us. Or if it is a ministry, they will tell you, the CS told us. But CS is not an accounting officer.
No.
The governor, in the tender process, you will never see his signature. So you are told by the governor, yes, we are taking you. So now people in the counties have said, are now telling their bosses, I can't do this. And we are telling them, if you are being forced to do that, just tell us secretly that I'm being pushed, there's this scandal in the offing. We'll come and prevent. In fact, prevention is better than the issue of policy.
So be a whistleblower.
Yeah, because some of these cases, as much as Kenyans love to see cases being taken to court, there's a case in this country that when it started, I'm sure either you were in primary or maybe even nursery. I don't know how your age, Eric. There's a case called Goldenberg. Goldenberg started when I was a bachelor. Right now, maybe very soon, my children will tell me I want to get married. The case is still in court.
Yeah.
The witnesses are nowhere to be seen. Some of them
Have died.
Natural attrition.
Yeah.
Others, maybe they are senile
Yep.
or sick. So those are some of the reasons, the issues about the delay, which we should come and talk about. So when we do that with the DPP, let's go back, let's not divert. We take the case to court. The DPP gives me a go-ahead. You can charge these guys. And that's when you hear that I'm arresting a governor. Some are taking off, some are hiding, whatever. We arrest. If it's a minister, he's picked. If it's a PS, he's picked. If it's a head of a state corporation, he's picked. Now, immediately we charge that person. Here, there's a big barrier.
Can I ask before you go to that?
Yes.
Once that individual is charged, is the job of the EACC done?
Good question. It is done, but not fully done. Everything now goes to the DPP. But once in a while, as the case is going on,
As it progresses,
yes, the DPP may tell you, these people have demanded this document.
Yep.
Can you give us?
Give us the document.
So you don't switch off.
All right.
You are on the lookout as EACC to back up, and you don't detach yourself from the DPP, because if that case is going to be dismissed, the backlash will be to the
come back to
DPP
you.
and the EACC. So you still work with the DPP, but now the biggest responsibility now goes to the DPP. When the DPP goes to court, now it's the issue of the DPP and the judiciary. But at the same time, the DPP has got no control of the judicial process. Now that is where the biggest challenge of fighting corruption in this country comes in.
So have you
And,
seen
let me
Yeah.
interject. And I am not saying the judiciary is bad. I'm talking of the process. The judicial process in fighting corruption in Kenya is very weak.
Okay.
And I want to give you an example. Yesterday we had a ruling. You know Woodley houses
Yes.
Yes.
very well.
Yes.
We filed a case. At that time I was working with the Anti-Corruption Commission. I had just reported 2006. We had filed a case as KACC to recover Woodley houses because they were illegally allocated. Let me take you through. These houses, they're about 100 and something. I think 110 if I'm not wrong. So we wrote all allottees, including senior people. You know, this was abuse of office.
Yeah.
You are a senior man, you are given a government house or those days you used to call them local authorities. Just because you're connected, everybody was given house. Can you imagine those? They are old but classical with good compound.
Right.
Yep.
So we wrote to all allottees. Half of them accepted to have what you call ADR, Alternative Dispute Resolution. They say, I will surrender this plot and the house, but iko pesa mimi nilipa kwa council.
Yeah.
Nirudishiwe pesa yangu. And we enter into consent. He brings a lawyer and our lawyer, so half of them decided to relinquish the houses. Half of them. Half of them walikata.
Let's fight it out.
This is our house. These are our houses. So the ruling from 2006, the ruling was done yesterday.
What has
14
been
years
happening
later.
since 2006?
That is the court process now. We have no control over it. The DPP has got no control. And this is a civil matter.
So what was happening during this time?
In the
This is what I'm
14
asking.
years, what was going on?
Adjournment.
Adjournment by the defense or by
Mostly capacity. We do what you call civil recovery.
right?
And we file cases of civil recovery in court. Right now, if you put a civil recovery case in court, the nearest
It joins the queue.
the nearest hearing is 2021. The hearing ile kuja kutaja tu kesi itwane.
Yeah.
So you get the point.
Because of the backlog.
The backlog, I don't know about the judiciary, but maybe they'll be able to explain, because of course they talk about underfunding, capacity problem, which we also have.
Yep.
When you look at EACC has got about 730 staff, and investigators, they are less than 200. If you look at in a region, because the constitution said that we should be everywhere in the county, but because we don't have the money and the capacity.
How many instances do we see when you go to court? Either the DPP or in a particular case the EACC is the one that's applying for adjournment.
On many occasions, it is the judicial system. You'll be told, judge
Not available.
is not available, or there is you'll get always. And that one, there is another aspect of it which I was going to talk about. It really eats into our budget, because the Woodley case, 14 years,
Yes.
and this ruling of tomorrow, we are not yet done. It came in our favor, that the judge said the process was flawed, and the houses should revert back to the county, because before it was called local authority.
Yes.
Right.
So they are going to start collecting rent, the county. But I know those guys are going to put an appeal case. When they appeal,
Everything stops.
Another 14 years.
Another 14 years.
Is there no process by which you can fast forward such a case?
No, you can. No, it is. These are systems.
It follows its own pace.
Unless you go and change laws in parliament and say maybe we'll have a gachacha system of court system.
Yeah.
Unawekwa hapa iko wazee hapa wanaamua hii.
Sort out, this is true.
Yeah, but as with the current system, we as EACC, DCI, DPP, we have no control over the process.
Let me ask a different question.
Ask that city when we come out of this break. Let's first take a look at traffic. In the studio on the hot seat is Twalib Mbarak, the EACC Chief Executive Officer. Of course, we're talking about the fight against corruption, the challenges that the EACC finds, and of course also the successes. Even if it took 14 years, the EACC finally got justice delivered for the people of Kenya when a ruling, of course, is issued saying that you are right. These houses belong to the people of Nairobi through the county government.
Is it possible to put, say, a figure or a monetary value to the assets that have so far been recovered by your department, or in volume the number of assets or properties that have been recovered by your department?
Good. I was ready for that question, fortunately. First of all, you need to understand that most of the gains of the commission are not monetary in terms of hard cash. It's monetary in form of land assets. And this has been done, or we have managed to achieve that through what you call civil recoveries. These are properties that we felt that they were wrongly acquired. People misused their position. You know, there was a time in this country when the so-called grabbing of land was more like illegal. It was legal. And people used to take pride of that. That I'm a connected person in government. This is my farm. But this country, I think, and it's a sign that in this country that the fight against corruption is succeeding, albeit very slowly. Because for those of us who are quite old, my counterpart,
quite old,
but he may not, sometimes when you get old, you are in denial. There is this saying which says life starts at 40, and I don't believe in that. I say aging starts at 40. Yeah. So what happened during those days? People used to be allocated farm, plots, and whatever. So we, as a commission, we have done a lot of what you call civil suits for recovery. We've managed two ways. Either the allottees accept to enter into an alternative dispute resolution and they hand over the property. There are some that refuses. There was a case in Kisumu. Somebody took a piece of land belonging to railway, and we won that case. We took it back. I don't want to mention names. And there are others that we managed to recover through ADR. So a good example I'll give you of our recovery and quantification of amount. Next to Yaya Center in Kilimani, there's a very big portion of land there that somebody took it, and literally that land belongs to Nairobi University of Nairobi. But you see, University of Nairobi is like railway. They have parcels of land all over. But maybe they don't have the capacity to do. So this fellow saw it, prime land, he took it. And we managed to get back the land. We had a ceremony, we handed over that plot to University of Nairobi. It's a very prime piece of land. Along, once you cross Yaya as you're heading to Lavington, it is just short of the Shell petrol station that used to be called Engine those days. Big piece of portion. That land alone is worth about 2 billion. And this is when it was recovered. Maybe if you bring value now, it will go beyond 2 billion. You know, in this country, the value of land does not go down. In Naivasha, opposite Delamere Farm, we have Kari. Nowadays they call it Kalro, the Kenya Greater Research Institute, the old days. We have recovered almost 1,800 acres of land that were grabbed by powerful barons during the previous regimes. And that land alone, with our valuer, because EACC we have land valuers as part of investigation, because sometimes when they go, you find like this issue of the National Lands Commission, people have been charged. You need to have facts from a valuer says this land was overvalued. That one alone is about 8.7 billion.
I'm sure there's a list as you continue.
Yeah, no, I'm
But-
I'm just highlighting the one.
Highlighting some of, and this is
big
the thing,
ones.
because it's highlighted. Do you have a mechanism for sharing this information with the public? And is there something like that allows for such a thing?
The mechanism here is here. The CEO is here being interviewed.
He's giving the information.
Sure, but then in the event that you're not here,
I think that-
how do we know? Obviously, that's the thing.
I think one thing that I will accept before the public as they listen to me, I think EACC, we are very poor in communication.
Absolutely.
Not poor, but very poor. We have a lot of gains, but we don't know how to shout about.
You don't shout
our
about your
gains.
gains.
Yes.
And we have other guys who have nothing, but they know how to shout.
Very good, because now in the absence of such information sharing, don't you agree? The members of the public will say you're actually not doing anything because you're not telling us about what you do.
Now, this is the problem. But of course, in our website, and this is a good feedback because when I live here, my head of communication is going to be in trouble. I will say,
They didn't know.
Did you hear what they told me and what they asked me? We have, surprisingly, even the judiciary itself, we have managed to recover their land in Kisumu, which was grabbed, and it's valued at 200 million. In Eldoret town, we have managed to recover land belonging to the judiciary, which was also grabbed. And we have Racecourse Primary School in Nairobi, which is about 700 million. Kenya Railway property. I think all of you know Uhuru Garden, Mombasa. Hapo kwa Mapembe.
Yes.
Those tasks.
Yes.
Hiyo kiwanja yote.
Opposite Wimpy.
Opposite. All that green, those big coastal trees. That place had been
It
grabbed.
had gone.
It had gone. People had title. And we went with them step by step until we recovered that land.
So when you go to these people who've grabbed, and of course the ones that agree that okay, mumenishika ni sawa, chukueni shamba, what kind of deal do you enter into those with them? Are you actually entering a deal and saying just bring back and walk scot free?
Yes, there are two options. Usually the media ask me, why do you let them go scot free?
Yes.
There are two issues here, Eric. We need to separate civil matters and criminal matters. If it's a case of corruption and you want to enter into agreement that I want to be pardoned, that one is not alternative dispute resolution. That is plea bargain. Even the Americans, one of the reasons why this country there's backlog of cases is we have never utilized the plea bargain system.
But we have it.
And it's always been there.
It is there, but it's not pronounced. Now the DPP, Nurdin Haji,
Yeah.
he is very aggressive. He even moves to areas to propagate about plea bargain. Plea bargain, there's a misconception. Plea bargain is on crime, criminal, economic crime,
Right.
or even the other crime that the DCI handles. A young man has been caught in America. They do it. You've been caught. You've stabbed somebody, and then taken to court. The lawyers are told, this case is 10 years. Can he enter plea bargain? We'll give him 4 years.
Yeah.
And it's a
Plead
way.
guilty, we finish up this case.
Case
You
and-
don't waste the time of the court.
Yes.
Yes.
And you agree, you start serving.
Right.
Instead of 10 years, you get 4 years. It's one way of addressing backlog all over the world. Here we have capacity problem with judiciary, and we don't.
And yet we are not
It
using
would be the way to go
Yes.
to use.
So,
the
but then
So
there's
that is criminal.
yes.
Now civil.
So when we talk of criminal in terms of corruption, I'll give you a good example. You've caught a county official. They purport to have done a contract to supply vehicles, and they were not supplied, and they paid. That's a criminal aspect of a corruption case. Criminal aspect. That one, plea bargain, is not EACC. It is the
It's a
DPP.
DPP.
Because by the time we take that file and tell the DPP, charge this person, when the DPP charge that person, now it's the DPP and that the lawyer of that person to say, do you want to go and plea bargain? But what we have experienced is that a number of these culprits are mistaken. They think that plea bargain, some of them even think ntarudisha nusu,
And then you
uachie mimi nusu na nisifungwe. There's nothing like
I
that.
continue with my life as
Yes.
normal.
Yeah. Now, for the civil, let me go back to your question. Civil is, I was given this plot because I was connected,
Yes.
or because maybe your father was a minister or a powerful figure.
Or the mayor.
Yeah, the mayor. And then you've been given this plot. EACC writes to you and say, look, this plot was illegally allocated to you. can you report to EACC and write a statement to bring us this document, this and that and that. EACC will tell you, because we also have a challenge. We don't want to enter into lengthy court processes. I've told you about the Woodley, 14 years. So you're told by the EACC, in front of your lawyer, are you willing to surrender this land? Because there's no criminal aspect there. You are located. Say, I will surrender. But you can also see when I was being given this plot, I paid these charges to the lands ministry. I paid this to city council those days. Can I get back my money? And we say yes.
So the EACC now gives back the money?
It doesn't give back the money. There's a process within the government.
Okay.
And then you surrender the title is taken to the lands ministry, and we process new title. If that land belongs to an institution, public institution, we also bring on board that public institution. What do you have about this particular land? And they said, we have this and that and that. We start processing the title until we either hand over silently.
Ensure the whole thing is complete.
Yes, we hand over the titles to the institution, say, Nairobi University, this is your title. And we say, we are done. So, are we together there?
Yes, we are.
For the issue of things like when you look at schools, school land was grabbed, we revert. And one good thing about it now, do you know who is one of our biggest clients in reclaiming illegally allocated land or stolen land? It is the Ministry of Land itself. Yeah, they write to us. These titles were illegally acquired. We want to put this institution. Can you recover?
Right.
One good thing, one governor, no name, he came to our office. You know, quite a number of them don't want to come to our office. They think that we want to arrest them.
Right.
Or you might enter, not walk out.
Yes.
Okay.
This governor came and said, we have this land here. This land is meant for public use. They were grabbed these pieces. How can you help us? And we told him, thank God, you are the first governor to walk into this office and tell us that you want to be assisted. Now we're in the process of recovering those pieces of land. Yeah.
What about
So these are some of the silent gains that the EACC has done. Unfortunately, they were, okay, we are to blame. Maybe we are not smart enough in our
communication of the same?
Yes.
No,
yes,
in fairness, some of them
there are
are
a lot of gains.
highlighted well, like the University of Nairobi one was covered, you know, probably because it's in Nairobi. Also in the cases of Kisumu and the railway land, we've seen a lot of these things coming up. It's probably because of the lack of sustainable communication.
I think also the other side that I need to talk about, we do a lot of disruption, but disruption is more based on undercover and intelligence work.
Right.
And is not very pronounced. You know, 4 months ago, we averted theft of almost 2.8 billion shillings. That everything was being cooked and
ready to go.
And the payment was being processed. Luckily, the head of that state corporation came and said, I'm in trouble. I'm being forced to pay this money. Can you give us a brief?
Wow.
We worked out, and I even cooperated with the DCI, and we wrote a good letter was written by the DCI through the input from our side. Said, you are the one handling this case. And here I'm trying to clear the issue that we are at competition with the DCI.
Right.
We work very well with the
Together.
DCI. Yeah.
Is there any kind of protection for people who would essentially come out and give information about things that they see happening where they work, for example, and want to essentially blow the whistle? Is there any kind of protection for them?
We do the protection in how we handle the matter, because we have an intelligence unit which deals with the intelligence and undercover operations. So first of all, if you want to volunteer that kind of information, you'll not even come to EACC.
Right.
We will meet you somewhere. Yeah. And if the informant is maybe a man, we'll even send a very good-looking lady to go and meet him. So when they are talking there, you may think that this is a boyfriend or a girlfriend.
You'll never tell.
We don't want to.
The man is spilling the beans.
So we have the that is one of the mechanisms of protecting informants.
Right.
And we make sure that sometimes we're even forced to abandon a case if we feel that we will not be able to protect the informant. Yeah.
If were to set up similar courts using specific timelines and regulations to deal with corruption cases, would this help your fight against corruption? Or is the Chief Justice actually in a position legally to do so?
I will not answer on behalf of the Chief Justice, but I will put a suggestion like any other Kenyan. That's a very good observation, because when the elections were over, there was a problem of the backlog of those petitions. And they set up that was it a 1 year period or 6 months? And they managed to hit the target.
Yes.
My own suggestion is that there should be a criteria where the Judiciary, DPP, DCI, and EACC, we have a meeting and a proposal that certain cases of a certain magnitude, they must be dealt within a specified period. Because I'll tell you one thing. We also have foreign partners that we work with, and the Kenyans in general. The issue is we are being told we have arrested. How many have we convicted? That is a question that is supposed to be, okay, people will say it is the DPP and Judiciary. But I understand the DPP's position. The whole delay is on the Judiciary side. And, okay, they say they have capacity problem. Like now they're saying even on budget. Like now we are having challenges in EACC. Most of the cases in the appeal court, they are going to delay a lot because they say that they don't have judges, they don't have money to run those appeal court. So when you're talking of even having a system of dealing with the cases immediately, they are now talking of even delays in appeals. So what is happening if we can do that? Because can you imagine this country today if you have two powerful people who have been accused of corruption, they have been convicted and they are serving, let's say, in Kamiti, Manyani, or Shimalatewa. I can tell you that would be the biggest deterrent.
The message it sends would be
Absolutely,
big.
the message it sends will reverberate through the entire system.
EACC, like now, people say, how many people have you convicted? Last year alone, and this is something that the public maybe is not aware. Last year alone, we had 51 conviction. 51 conviction. The only thing that people will say maybe they are low level cases. But then,
is it police officers
no,
caught on the roadside
no, yeah,
receiving bribes? Are those part of the 51?
Yeah, if you look at police case bribery as a small problem, I can tell you one thing. It is a menace that is a thorn in the flesh of every Kenyan who is using a road. Yeah. So if you look at it collectively, all those bribes, how much they are getting per year, how much inconvenience they are causing. If as much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted. But then what you can say is that those kind of cases, the way he has asked his question, we can do what categorization of corruption cases.
Yes.
We have court system that deals with petty corruption alone. We have middle level corruption. We have grand corruption. And seriously, if we go that way, we can make some gains. Because the most important thing is if we are able to get hold of this big fish, there'll be a message. The only problem I want to come back is that even what you call the petty corruption, about the 51 cases that we manage conviction, I have sampled one case, and you will see why Judiciary is the one that is slowing down the fight against corruption.
And is that frustrating?
Very frustrating.
For you as a
yes,
commission?
Yes,
as
I want to give you
me
an example. I want to give you an example.
That one example, yeah?
Yes. There was a case where a certain organization, state organization, that is mandated to collect some returns. They went to a certain company and said, you did not make returns for this and that. So the guy said they demanded a bribe of 50,000. And they alerted KCC those days. And then, not even KCC, I think it is Kenya Anti-Corruption Authority, CASA, not KCC. So a trap was set. These guys were arrested taking a bribe of 50,000 shillings, treated money. The case was 2002, Eric. It was concluded last year.
In 2019.
Why should a case of 50,000 bribe take 17 years? So if a case of 50,000 bribe is taking 17 years, Kamarer Dam will take how many years?
2050.
The governors we have charged will take how long?
How many years?
The ministers we have charged will take how many years? Then you come and say, DPP is not working, EACC is not working.
The Judiciary has also responded to this previously, and the Chief Justice himself has said, look, you're bringing a case, for example, the NYS case. One case, 17 accused. 17 accused, each of them comes to court with 2 lawyers. Even just mentions of those cases are taking forever. Why is it that you choose to consolidate cases like that?
Let me ask you. You have gone...
Taking an entire ocean to court.
It's not an
Instead
entire...
of just one
No,
big fish.
it's not an entire ocean. If all these people are implicated, what do? Why should you leave others? What if somebody asks you, what was the criteria of leaving 7 and taking 10?
taking 3.
What will you do? So these are some of the complex things. I understand where the CJ is coming from. I understand what he's talking about. But also, he also needs to understand on the investigative part of the case. So these are some of the things that need to be addressed. And this issue of saying shoddy cases, there are nothing called shoddy cases. We provide watertight cases. And I'll give you a good example. There's this case of Akasha. What happened in USA? They were jailed. What happened here? How were they extradited from Kenya to America?
To America.
Technically illegally.
It was illegally.
Illegally.
It was delayed
Was
in the
it
courts.
illegal, really?
Not illegally, but they were picked.
They were picked, yes.
Yes. Why were they picked?
But the
and-
court had not
No,
acclaimed it.
Why were they picked and they have been charged
The
here?
hearing was still ongoing.
Let
No,
me
it
ask
was
the
taking
question.
time here.
No, the
No,
question is...
I want to answer your
I
question.
know-
by
I want to
asking
ask you a question.
Yes.
These people were in
court in Kenya.
Yes.
Yes.
How come a foreign jurisdiction came and picked them? That one you'll answer me later.
And they're already in jail.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
and,
what?
now
Yes.
they have been jailed. How long did it take?
No.
Months.
I was actually
Months.
going with this. Did they have our other evidence other than the one we had in Kenya? Or did they use our evidence to convict them?
I won't go into those details, but
Yes.
but generally,
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
those guys were under a judicial process here.
Yes,
For
they
extradition.
Why did these people come and pick them? It means what? Can you answer
They
that?
noticed that you're delaying.
No, other thing, maybe they don't trust our system.
Yes.
No, they actually have no faith in our system. And they figured...
These guys are not gonna
these
get the
fellows
job done at the
But
end
they
of the
had
day.
been accused. It wasn't the
Right.
first time they were in court. These cases had come and fizzled. And fizzled.
And these guys have been playing that business, this suspicion,
Yes.
for the last 25 years in this country.
So it's basically using the court system to evade justice.
I will not say that. I will not say that. But I'm saying
Yeah.
court delays. I'm not blaming the judiciary. I'm just saying
Processes.
court delays and the court process is too long for us to fight corruption effectively.
Is it suffice to say that if we're looking at this process and now want to be able to cut things off at both ends, that we'll see more convictions, we'll see or faster process of justice for some of these cases?
It's either way. When you are taking a court case when you take a case to court, there are two things: you win or you lose. It will be done very fast, and even when the court process is very fast, for the accused, if he's to be released, the better for him.
Yep.
Because it should take short time for him also to know,
Whether
am
I'm in or out.
I guilty or not?
You're on that
So
monkey off your shoulder.
I am looking at it both on our side winning and on the side of the culprit winning. If we win, good message to the public that people are getting convicted, they are being jailed. On the other side, if the fellow is acquitted in a fair system, good for him. Why should you subject
It
somebody?
also shows that
for
justice is served.
These delayed court cases, they have also made people very poor.
Absolutely.
They are just using 10, 20 lawyers and people are forced even to sell. So a quick and effective judicial process will be one of the best message of fighting corruption.
There are people who have actually said, they've gone through that whole process. Like you've said, many of them have ended up poor, many of them have ended up under depression and completely frustrated, yet they are the accused. There are many times when people say that the accused are working with their lawyers and the judges to delay the cases. So you told us about the 51 convictions in the last 1 year. What are the main gains, apart from now, of course, the asset recovery, which is very good, you're recovering land, bringing it back to the public, those convictions? Well, let's not talk about the size of the convictions, but what other gains do you have?
We need to understand that our mandate, other than law enforcement, we are also mandated to take what you call prevention and education and public awareness. So we have several activities that we do. Of course, Kenyans would like to see people in court only, but at the end of the day, the prevention is the best strategy. And we have what you call education department. We have a prevention directorate with a full director. And they have done a lot in terms of system review and what you call corruption risk assessment. And we also do what you call, we have integrity clubs for school children and try to talk to them. On system review, we make a lot of gains. And I'll give you a good example of a system review that, had it been implemented, it could have averted a lot of loss of big amount of money. When there was NYS 1, EACC went to NYS. They did a system review, comprehensive system review. And the report came out with suggestion that NYS must be autonomous, free from the Ministry of Devolution. Because they looked at the system and they saw there was a lot of ambiguity in procurement, in payment. The top management of NYS was answerable to parallel line of reportings, all those things. When that report was submitted, the same devolution ministry thrashed that report for interest known to them.
Yes.
Then NYS 2 took place. Now, after NYS 2 took place, it is at this time that the NYS is implementing the system review report of EACC, and now NYS is autonomous. So, and we have a lot of areas that we have done the same kind of things. One of the best way of preventing corruption in public offices is automation. You reduce the human interaction. Things like e-citizen, things like police clearance certificate being done online. When you are paying for land rates to be done online. Most of those recommendations were done by EACC. Unfortunately, the public doesn't know that.
Yes.
And we are able to prevent a lot of things in terms of automation of services. The other thing that EACC has done is we do a lot of disruption. I've talked about it. You remember sometimes people are trying to do something and we get information and we write to those organizations and we are able to avert losses of huge amount of money. I talked about the 2.8 billion, one of the state corporation. We managed to avert a loss of about 3.8 billion in the correctional services. And in fact, the file is with the DPP now. These are people who wanted to buy some security equipment, but if you look at it critically, it was going to be air supply. and we managed to contain that. We have sat down. There are a lot of pending bills, like in the Ministry of Correctional Services. We had a multi-agency team composed of DCI, EACC, Audit, and the Ministry of Correctional Services from the direction of the Permanent Secretary, Zainab Hussein. And we had a complete review of the pending bills worth 6.2 billion shillings. And the report came out and say these are questionable payments and they should not be paid. We've talked, as much as we are now doing something about the Nairobi County, the governor is charged. We are still investigating some of the key officers in the county, and we have averted quite a number of loss of amount of money within the many counties that was out to be siphoned through dubious and dummy tenders.
Procurement.
Yeah, but because when you disrupt, most of the time you don't arrest anybody. And it doesn't come to the public attention.
Right.
So people don't see that. People want to see money has been stolen, then people
Somebody's
are taken
arrested
court.
and sent to jail.
And that is the worst thing, because recovery is
Taking to court takes-
recovery is impossible.
The
court process is long. The money has gone.
disruption is actually even better.
Yeah. If you
Because
look,
you've saved us from losing that money.
yes, if you look at Goldenberg, how much was recovered other than the Grand Regency? Nothing.
Nothing.
The NYS scandal 1, 2, how much was recovered? Nothing. So prevention is the way forward. And our request is that in the long run, we hope that we'll get more funding so that we can strengthen the prevention department, the education department, of course, enforcement. And lastly, from your advice, I'll have to go and work out on our communication strategy.
Please do. Please do. On that, we can at least follow up on, really. Please do.
Thank you very much for coming this morning, Twalib Mbarak, the CEO of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Today, we wanted to hear from you to understand what the EACC has been doing. We'll invite you again so we can now look at case by case, taking specific focus into certain issues. For example, today we didn't even look at the Leadership and Integrity Act, and the Chapter 6 of the Constitution, and what EACC should do or is doing to ensure that we have people of leadership and of integrity in our positions of leadership. We'll invite you again so that you can come.
Thank you, Eric.
Asante sana. You're catching a flight shortly. We wish you a safe flight and a good time.
Thank you.